Moving on to inverse functions. First of all, let's look at the notation. Inverse functions are written as f and an upper -1 here and x. So make sure you know the notation, f inverse x. Next, only one-to-one functions have inverses. Only one-to-one functions have inverses. I have already spoken to you about one-to-one functions. Please remember the horizontal line test to determine if a function is one-to-one. You can refer to your notes previously for facts on one-to-one functions. First, let's go ahead and learn how to get the inverse of a function. So if you're given f of x, how do you find f inverse x? We are learning the mechanics, and we can learn the theory later on. We are learning the mechanics. So if you are given f of x is x minus 5, and you asked to find f inverse x, there are a few steps. First step, we will let y equals to x minus 5. This follows the question. It follows the question. The question given is fx equals to x minus 5. So we will write y equals to x minus 5. And then what we will do is we will change our y to x and our x to y. So where we see a y, we will change it to x, and where we see an x, we will change it to a y. I've written it here for you. Change x to y and y to x. So it becomes, so this one becomes x equals to y minus 5. So the third step is to make now y the subject. So y the subject means only y on the left hand side. So y becomes, bring this 5 across, you have y equals to x plus 5. And finally, just write down the answer. F inverse x equals to what you just obtained, x plus 5. Okay? So 3 steps. First, to summarize, first step, let y equals to x minus 5. This follows the question that's given. And second step is to change your y to x and your x to y. And the last step is to make y the subject. And don't forget to write your answer as f inverse x equals to x plus 5. Let's look at a second example. If we are given fx equals to 2x plus 7, and you ask to find f inverse x. So remember, first step is to write y equals to 2x plus 7. Next step is to change the y to x and the x to y. I've done that for you. And the last step is, of course, to write y as the subject. So if you pick up from here, 2y equals to x minus 7, and you can see it. I've written it for you. Therefore y equals to x minus 7 over 2, and you have your answer. Write it as f inverse x equals x minus 7 over 2. Now let's look at the ideas behind f of x and f inverse x. Why do we need to study the function and its inverse? Let's look at the example we used earlier. F of x equals to x minus 5. Let's say we take x equals to 9. If we take x equals to 9, just a random value, we can work out f of 9. F of 9, you can plug it in, you will get 9 minus 5 equals to 4. So when you take a random value, any value, x equals to 9, we are going to get the value of y. Remember, I told you that you can use either y or f of x, it doesn't matter. So when x is 9, y is 4. Now this value of x equals to 9, we call it the object, and this value of y that we have obtained, we call it the image. This is the language that we use in something called mapping. So x is called the object and 4 here is called the image. So objects are part of what we call the domain, and images are part of what we call the range. So 4 is the image of the object 9. Now we have gone from the object, okay, to the image by using f. Now we learn inverses because we want to go from the image back to the object. So if you want to go from the image back to the object, then here we have to use the inverse function. That's the reason we study inverses. So if you have f inverse x, which we also found earlier to be x plus 5, so remember from 9 we went to 4, now we want to go back to 9, we will use x equals to 4 now. Okay, if we use x equals to 4, we'll go back to 9. So let me tell you again, the reason we study functions and their inverses is because using functions we can go from the object to the image. So we went from 9 to 4. Now if you want to come back, we have to use an f inverse, which is x plus 5, and if you plug in 4 now, you'll come back to 4 plus 5 equals to 9. So it's very important for us to be able to go from your object to the image and from the image back to the object. I've shown you a simple mapping diagram in here, and let's look at it. We call it mapping. So on the left hand side you will see the object 9, on the right hand side here you will see the image 4. So if you want to go from 9 to 4, I've shown you an arrow, you need to use fx. If you want to go from 4 back to 9, we need to use f inverse x. That's the idea. Okay, so along here we have the x values, along here we have the y values. I've given you the names earlier. X values are referred to as objects and y values are referred to as images. So just to go through the second example, we had fx equals to 2x plus 7. So let's pick a value of x, 7, and when you plug in 7 you'll get 2 times 7, 14 plus 7 is 21. So we have an object and we have an image. If you want to go back from 21 to 7, you have to use the f inverse x. As you can see here, plug the 21 inside. 21 minus 7 is 14 divided by 2, you will get 7. So you have gone back from the image to the object. Let's look at a more elaborate example. You are given f of x equals to 3x plus 2 over x minus 3, and you are asked to find f inverse x. So this is a rational function, 3x plus 2 over x minus 3. A couple of remarks. Note that this function is not defined for x equals to 3. It does not exist for x equals to 3, because when you plug in x equal to 3 in the denominator, you have to divide something by 0, and you cannot divide anything by 0. So this function, please remember, is not defined for x equals to 3. Okay, so people may write the function like this in books: 3x plus 2 over x minus 3, and then they'll say x cannot be equals to 3. Okay, let's move on to the mechanics of finding our inverse. The first step does not change at all. We will let y be equals to the question that is given to us, which is 3x plus 2 over x minus 3. So once we do that, the next step is always to change your y to x and your x to your y. Okay, so all the x's become y's and all the y's, in this case there's only one y of course, then y will become x. Then we have to do a bit of algebra, because remember the third step is to make y the subject, so that involves a little bit of algebra. So what have I done? I have cross multiplied x times y minus 3, and then I have 3y plus 2. I've opened this up, xy minus 3x equals 3y plus 2, and after that I've brought the 3y to the left and I've brought the minus 3x to the right, so I will have xy minus 3y equals 3x plus 2. Do these things slowly, okay? Please do not make mistakes here. I've taken out the y, factorized it, and you'll get x minus 3 here, and I have 3x plus 2 here. So now I have y equals to 3x plus 2 over x minus 3. So finally write down the answer. F inverse x is equal to 3x plus 2 over x minus 3. Note, F inverse x is also not defined for x equals to 3.